Welcome everybody into a conversation today around the topic of sacred sexuality. For many of us, myself included, who were raised in religious conditioning, sexuality can often be something associated with sin. It's separate from God. It's part of the devil. It's anything but sacred, and in the Taoist traditions and in the tantric lineages, sexuality is actually seen as the most sacred energy we could ever have within us and to share with someone. And so when we can claim our sexuality, we can claim every cell in our body to the depths of ourselves as sacred. When we can use this creator energy in a way that's actually serving our development, our connection with God, our connection with each other, with the earth, with the sacred, this can be a potent, powerful energy. And, in a lot of our confusion that it currently exists and historically has existed around sexuality, if you think about it, there's so much that's tied up in knots around our sexuality and the stories we've been told, right? Of most of us, as I always say, we've been raised by, 5th grade, 6th grade anatomy, middle school anatomy, and porn as our education of sex, and when religion and spirituality completely leaves it out, we're left with nothing but porn to educate us. So the intention of this podcast and this work that I'm doing with men's sexual mastery and this age that we're living in of freedom of information and bringing about these tools that have been hidden for centuries is to bring light to the darkness, bring the sacred and the sexual together, to align this energy, to integrate it. Because if it remains in the shadows, it's going to continue coming out sideways. That's why, you see priests molesting boys, or you see, shamans in sexual misconduct. And, you see it in the elite and the powerful. You see these sex rings and sex trafficking. There's just so much shadow behavior that we have collectively as humanity around our sexuality. And so how do we address this? How do we get to the root of this and reprogram these ancestral patterns of rape, of violence, of abuse, of sexual energy, of our most sacred energy? This is what the work is all about. This is what we do in our training programs with men's sexual mastery, is go to the root of our sexuality itself. And where is this energy of constantly seeking outside of ourselves, taking from the feminine? I talk about this a lot, like whether that's from our partners or the earth herself, extracting without being in relationship, without being in reciprocity. These are the patterns that we're learning to break in this deep work. And one of the beautiful byproducts of this pattern stuff that we're breaking is deeper orgasms, is becoming multi-orgasmic as men. And the key to this, as I just alluded to, is relationship. That is the key distinguishing feature of this work, of getting in right relation with the feminine within us and around us. This is actually what activates and unlocks deeper levels of orgasm. I could hop on here and give you a bunch of tips and tricks for, these little hacks, these red pills, to try to get you into some higher levels of dopamine hits, or oxytocin or serotonin. But at the end of the day, this work is actually going deeper into building relationships. It's building a foundation of relationship with sexuality itself, with our inner feminine as men. We both have masculine and feminine poles. In the Human Genome Project, even if you're living in a male body, you have all the codes of the female version of you inside of you. And it's not until I think week 9 or something in the fetus development that chromosome gets chose, whether you're male or female, but all of that latent code lies within you. And this is why as men, we can be highly sensitive, we can be intuitive, we can be, have all these feminine qualities, and many men express very feminine, and, women can express masculine. But in truth, we all have these energies within us. And this is what in Taoism They talk about the duality, the polarity of masculine, feminine, yin, yang, sun, moon, heaven, earth, the magnetic poles. If you hold magnets to each other, they have poles that repel or attract, and depending on our blueprints, this is what we're basically living out in these polarities. But when we can learn to find inner union and completion within ourselves, and then bring that into partnership, when we can learn to stop seeking outside of ourselves and trying to have control in this shadow masculine pattern that has been our ancestral pattern as men, raping and pillaging the feminine, and when we can actually go to the root of this, and this is the work we do, and excavate the programs that aren't us and reprogram and open up through right relation into coherence within ourselves, when we can bring that to the sexual space, to relationship, we're overflowing with sexual energy. We're overflowing with pleasure rather than needing to take it, rather than being in scarcity. We are abundant in sexual energy. And these are the codes that we can unlock when we get in right relation. So as I've said earlier, this, the foundations of all this work of becoming multi-orgasmic, the foundations of sacred sexuality are getting in right relation, getting in right relationship. And how do we do this? Starting within ourselves. It's learning to slow down, learning to get out of the mind, get out of the constant seeking outside of ourselves, the idea of more, of quantity of relationships, of how many times we have sex or how often we ejaculate, this addiction to dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin releases that are in porn, that are in ejaculatory orgasms, this addiction to intensity, this masculine, patriarchal, colonizer, capitalistic, yang energy that we are all so addicted to. Just go, more, bigger, deeper. The energy that we need more of to come into balance and to get into right relation is the yin, is being, not doing. It's slowing down, it's feeling, it's getting into the body. And in the beginning, this can be uncomfortable because most of us are avoiding what's held in the body, which most of that is not, most of the tension and trauma that is held in our body isn't even ours. It may just be ancestral stuff that we've carried. But for us to actually face what's being felt in the void and the stillness in spaces of meditation, but especially if we're bringing this into sexuality, if we're not just trying to leave the body and ascend to the 5D, which a lot of, meditation and spiritual practices are, but when we're actually rooting into the body and feeling what's fully felt, that's when we can start to move some of this stagnant energy and uncover what's underneath. And I just did another live podcast, talking about the prostate work for men. You can really check that out if you're interested. That's a lot of the root of this stuff. It's myofascial tension that's held in our body. So our bodies, in a way, are just representing the world at large, these systems that are out of relation with one another, the masculine and the feminine, So it's very nuanced. This is a really deep topic when we talk about doing this work within, and I could go on and on about it. But suffice to say that when we get out of our heads and into our bodies, and this is primarily the foundation of this is nervous system regulation, we begin to break loose some of the stagnant old patterns, and we start to unlock deeper levels of sensitivity of orgasm that are very subtle in the beginning, and they grow over time. And we can do this without a partner. We can do this completely on our own. This is, we recommend every guy who comes through our training program commits to a 3-hour sex date every single week, whether you're in partnership or alone. And honestly, a lot of this work, if you're new to it as a man, with like semen intention and sexual alchemy, you're actually better off being a single man. Because there's a lot of deprogramming we need to do, and like breaking ourselves off of pornography and resensitizing ourselves so that we can show up to our feminine partners feeling them and truly being with them, being present. And this is what being in right relationship is all about. So the more that we learn to hold this presence, to have this relationship with our bodies, the more we learn to bring that outside of ourselves, and we can feel her body and, create safety, basically, to listen to it, to feel it, to be fully present, to not be constantly seeking somewhere else, some new thing. Oh, this, even being on our phones right now, or if you're listening to this, it's like we're addicted to these quick dopamine hits and always escaping the moment. And it's so simple that it's almost ridiculous, like how simple it is, the path of healing our sexual energy, or of healing at all. It's literally just being here now. Can you be here now with what is? Can you feel what you're feeling? Can you breathe? Can you regulate? And can you be with someone else? This is the fuel for love, really. And if we're talking about deepening into orgasm, the depth of orgasm that you're going to experience is going to be directly correlated to the depth of presence, to the depth of stillness, to how well you can stay here with what is right now. And in order to stretch that capacity to be fully present no matter what's going on, that means we're going to have to feel the pain too. Pleasure and pain are just polarities in life. These are sensations that inevitably are going to exist. And I think a lot of people, we shut ourselves off to all of it. We're numbed from here down because we don't want to feel the pain. But in order to feel the pleasure, you got to feel the pain too. And the good news is, the more you learn how to deepen into presence and nervous system regulation, and a lot of the tools, the Taoist sexual alchemy tools, the Tantra tools of feeling and transmuting everything that's moving through us in any given moment, is that you can alchemize pain into pleasure. This is what we do in ice baths, right? Like there are those moments when you're braced up, you go into the cold, your whole nervous system's freaking out, and you breathe and you breathe and you breathe and you release and you relax, and then there comes that point where it's a pattern interrupt, where like, oh, the pain is gone, the discomfort's gone. Oh my gosh, it feels actually pleasurable. Like I feel high as fuck right now. Some of you who do ice baths may know this, so this rewiring of our nervous system and our relationship with these sensations, whether it's pain or pleasure, is how we begin to open up to feeling more. I think a lot of people, we avoid this work because we want all the pleasure, but we avoid all the pain. And you can't have one without the other. So when you learn how to, instead of resisting these energies, you learn how to just be with them, how to dance with them, how to make love with them, how to regulate, how to smile with it, how to dance with this energy. It can really transform your love life from the inside out. And this is the love life with ourselves first, with our reality, with everything we're experiencing. I know a lot of this conversation is like very nuanced and like very, very like, it's hard for me to encapsulate this, like what this work is, because it's literally, I say all the time, how we show up in the bedroom is how we show up in life. And how we show up in life is how we show up in the bedroom. And those same nervous system responses that we're having when we're experiencing pleasure and experiencing pain out in the world will also come home and come into our relationships. And that's why in our training, it's an inside-out game. We get guys into facing where they're out of alignment with their own energy. That's the basic building blocks of creating a safe container, of getting in right relation. First and foremost, are you in right relation with your own word? Can you trust yourself? Do you do what you say you will do? Because if you don't, then if you can't trust yourself, how can anyone else trust you? Like, energy don't lie. Like, people feel it in the eyes. And when people feel your coherence, when you know that you trust yourself, then when you do what you say you'll do, it builds confidence. And people feel that confidence. That's why I can look in this camera right now and be speaking everything I'm speaking, even while being witnessed by everyone I know in my entire online social circle, and not buckle, because I'm speaking from experience. I'm in integrity with myself. I'm honest with myself. And this is the core of getting in right relation, of being that masculine container that is fucking bulletproof, so that the feminine waters can fill that bowl, right? We talk about this analogy a lot. And the bowl, it shows where the bowl is leaking. We can thank our feminine partners, these mirrors, for showing us where we can grow as men and own our shit. And as we patch up those holes, the container starts filling, the bowl starts filling, till it's overflowing over the edges. And these are states of internal orgasmic energy, I would say. This is one and the same, what I'm talking about. And our container can continue, we can continue to grow our container up more and more as that sexual energy builds and builds. This is what sacred sexuality is. This is what using and alchemizing this energy for our own development is. This is what can exist beyond porn reenactment, which is what most of us are doing. And it's okay, I say again and again, that's fine. Like, porn is great, primal sex is awesome. Actually, it's even more epic when you're in this work, because you're actually that much more present in listening and feeling and directing and penetrating your energy with intention, with love, from abundance, not trying to take, not in fantasy, fully present with what is. So, again, the theme today of sacred sexuality is all about getting in right relation. And how we do this is bringing more integrity to who we are as men, to how we show up with women, how we show up with the feminine. Yeah, I would emphasize the feminine more than women, the feminine within us, our bodies, whether we're taking care of ourselves, our needs, making sure we're working in as much as we are working out, and not in this constant output performance mode, which most of us are born into. With our feminine partners, it's about showing up in integrity, being true to our word. When you say you'll take out the fucking trash, you take it out. Like, every time you don't do what you say you'll do, you are causing a break in trust. And that break in trust is leaking your vessel. It's it's draining her sexual energy, the feminine. She can't trust you to hold it. You're making a fucking mess of everything. And she'll do this. It's just completely unconscious, by the way. So you may not think that you taking out the trash or doing what you say you'll do will lead to deeper orgasms, but it does. I promise you. And building more coherence between your words and your actions is the foundation of holding more sexual energy. And this will magnetize your partner to you. This is why in our trainings and in my coaching, we get brothers into daily routines, into daily blissipline practices. Tongue twister there, which is combining bliss and discipline, right? And, finding the practices that fill us with pleasure, that bring us back into remembrance, so that we wake up in those first few moments of the day feeling who we truly are, not picking up our phone and getting lost in comparison and all the loops in our nervous system getting dysregulated. No, waking up, setting those first few moments of the day, building that momentum towards who we came here to be, towards who we truly are in our best moments, waking up with that. That is a foundation of how we start this work within. And we use accountability in our training and in my coaching for that. Every single fucking day, 3-minute voice memos. Hey brother, I woke up, I did or I did not do what I committed to. If you didn't, there's no shame, there's no guilt, but there's immediate ownership. I take ownership. I missed my blissipline this morning, and I recommit to tomorrow. What's alive on my heart is such and such and such. When we have this thread going on for weeks, for months, some of my brothers for years of witnessing one another, pattern interrupting our own bullshit, when we're out of alignment with our own word and integrity, this shifts our entire state of being. It rearranges us and brings coherence to our core. And when we have this coherence, what I'm talking about with what's felt behind the eyes, that magnetizes the feminine. When you have a strong fucking container that can handle anything, the feminine is just, the water is just waiting to fill it up. Or think of like a lighthouse that's like the ocean is just surrounding it. The storm is just, the waters are just shedding away what is not truly in integrity, what is not truly the lighthouse. All the bullshit stuff, all the Peter Pan syndromes, This is one of the big things that I talk about in my training too, the man-child. The boy, the shiny object syndrome, who's just chasing quick hits everywhere. The woman in the red dress, you name it. This is the ancestral pattern that we're learning how to break. It's about quality over quantity, these things. One of my teachers, Nico, says, Nico Cannon, look him up. He says, if a man cannot meet his woman, if a man cannot meet God in his woman, no amount of women will ever bring him fulfillment. Yeah, let that sink in. And I know I myself am like chief among Peter Pans, running around all over the world, constantly distracted by shiny object syndrome. This shows up in so many ways, and this is part of the programming that we've inherited. And what an honor and what a privilege and what a pleasure it is to be breaking that shit and to be showing up as fucking embodied kings, ready to hold the feminine in integrity, because we are in integrity with ourselves, we're in integrity in business, we're in integrity in our friendships. We can hold it. And this is what allows more sexual energy to come in. And I'll mention as a side note, you'll find that, more, let's say more feminine energy, more fluid to come into the vessel. Feminine energy can also be money. Feminine energy can also be power. It can be technology. It's just energy. Energy is neither good nor evil, or good or bad. It's just energy, and it's how it's used. I always say like sex applies to this too, but power, money, all of it, it's like fire. You can cook a meal with it, or you can burn the house down. So what we're learning to do is we're playing these games of integrity, of alignment, of aligning our sexual energy, and learning how to hold it with our semen intention practices instead of just shooting it out, trying to escape what's being felt, so that we can actually expand our capacity to hold more of it. And as we relax into our power, as we allow these new neural pathways to open, it opens up our internal orgasmic capacity. And it's so freaking crazy that like aligning and being in integrity with our sexual energy, with God, brings us, and I'm speaking firsthand, 100,000, 1,000,000x the pleasure that you will ever have had with pornography or with any other form of sex you had before, unconsciously or consciously. It's like we don't know what we know until we know it. But this is what the Taoists had access to. This is what the tantric lineages had access to. And this is my dharma, my mission in life, to spread this information as far and as wide to as many brothers as possible, to awaken us to our potential. Because our sexual energy can take us to God. It can build the future world. It can get us out of these cycles of rape and abuse and pillaging, consumption. If you really look at your life right now, like that's the default program. No shame, bro. I'm also in it too. I've been in a long journey too, but I'm telling you, there's hope. There's ways to reprogram this, and I'm a living example of that. And there's many more of us. There's a whole brotherhood here. So if this is some work that you feel called into, message me, bro. We'd love to have you. We have group trainings throughout the year. We have another one coming up here, I think, next month. They're 8-week trainings. We got in-person events. I do one-on-one coaching. There's an entire network of us who are awakening within this work to reprogram these ancestral patterns, to get in right relation with the feminine within us and around us, and to deepen into pleasure in the process of it, to experience mind-blowing sex. How fucking awesome is that? Uniting with God, with the highest version of yourself, being the most integrity-filled, honest, coherent man that you can be, and simultaneously having sex that's beyond what a rock star could even have, because it's about quality over quantity. That's it, bro. Sending you all so much love today. Thanks for hopping in with me on this, and I'll see you all very soon. Big love, y'all.